It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast on this holiday, Hacksaw's Headlines. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, and for the next hour or so, we're going to talk sports with you. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 store locations to serve you, and the new one that's opening at Dana Point in Orange County. If you've got projects, they've got the materials. If you want advice, they can be your best friend, be your consultant, DIXIELINE Lumber. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, never a holiday for him either, John Riley, with us here in studio. John, we're going a lot of different directions on this Labor Day weekend, coming off what has been a fabulous, great sports weekend.
Yeah, we just flipped the calendar to September. So now we got the pennant races, we got the NFL starting. Great time of year.
Couple of business notes. X marks the spot. You're all on social media. I'm on social media, much to the chagrin of some people. Hey, I want you to join my Twitter all-star team. You can just by typing in my handle. When you go to X, Twitter, at Hacksaw1090, at Hacksaw1090. Want you to hit the follow button. Join my Twitter all-star team. Also, I write sports every day, a volume of sports every day. Guarantee you won't get this number of stories anywhere else. Check my website. That address right there at the top, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Think you'll like what I write. Check it first thing every morning. And when you go to the website, there's a big orange box. Want you to be part of the Hacksaw's Insiders group. So the night John Riley decides to buy shots of tequila for everybody at a local restaurant, everybody's part of the Insiders group is going to be able to come participate in that. So join the Insiders group. Want you to share. Want you to subscribe. Tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific. And when you subscribe, you will get alerts every time we put something up on the YouTube channel. And there's been a lot of stuff on that YouTube channel in the last couple of weeks. So share and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Please give us 5 stars. We don't have a lot of friends. We could use the rating. And when we're done, we started this thing almost right from the beginning when we did this podcast. This is the 200th podcast we've done.
202.
Fans Forum, you take over the podcast when John and I are done putting topics on the table. John Riley is going to explain for all you newbies, Rookie of the Year candidates, those of you on live stream, how does Fans Forum work?
First of all, you are such a pro at this. I mean, the opening is fantastic. So, hey, if you've got a question or comment in the world of sports for Lee, just type it in the live chat on X, on YouTube, or on Facebook, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
And again, make your comments or questions brief. Don't write an essay because we can't read it all. We can't fit it all on the TV screen. But you got a question? Tell us. You got an answer? Tell us. You got an opinion? We might want to listen to it. We will respond to everybody. Fans Forum comes up. So as we run through the laundry list of hot topics on the table, if there's something there that pushes your hot button, feel free. Jump into the chat box, Fans Forum. John, where would you like to go to get this sucker started?
Yeah, let's talk Padre baseball. We're in the pennant race, like I said, and this is going to be a great run.
Padres are at the end of an unbelievable haul. 18 games in 18 days. They played the Detroit Tigers Monday, Labor Day holiday. Then they get a day off. Scheduling's been brutal. At one stretch where they played 27 games in 28 days. I just don't understand why the union, why management allows this to happen, not just to the Padres, but to anybody. The burning question right there, can they catch the Dodgers? Padres grinded through the heat and the humidity of St. Louis, which was atrocious. Then they played in that weird building at Tropicana Field Sundome, and they struggled there. They finally came away. They're 5 games out of first place, tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Dodgers are staggering again, and just when you think the Dodgers are going to run away, the Dodgers hit a real rough spot in the road. So here's the Padres storyline, and there's lots of different angles that we're going to discuss just very briefly since the Padres are the team in town. They've just been unbelievable on the road. They have the second best record in Major League Baseball on the road, 41-29. Got to be concerned, though. Michael King has now thrown 155 innings. It's like he's hit a physical wall. Dylan Cease, wildness has returned. He looks really fatigued to me. And the first thing that goes with a pitcher that's really tired are his mechanics, his legs, his location with the glove and the ball. Elias Diaz, I think this is a good rental acquisition, catcher, some power. They'll work him into a 2-man rotation or maybe a 3-man rotation. I did not realize this till this morning. Luis Campusano is the 29th rated, second worst defensive catcher in all of Major League Baseball. Yu Darvish seems like he's close to going to the rotation, John Riley. He threw 4 innings, 66 pitches, didn't have any physical setbacks, but that was against the Cincinnati Reds rookies in the Summer League in Rookie League ball in Arizona. I don't know if he needs a rehab start. I think they still got to get his pitch count up because I don't know that 66 non-stressful pitchers against 18-year-olds is really a true test. Randy Vasquez gets sent back to the minor leagues with apologies. Everybody's got to have a 5th starter, and everybody's 5th starter gets lit up, and he got lit up down in Tampa Bay. That 4-inning, 9-run, 11-hit outing was bad. This was a surprise signing. The ex-Giant, Arizona, and Dodgers shortstop Nick Ahmed signs with the Padres. Now, he's gone to El Paso. If there's an injury setback to Hassan Kim, I think Ahmed will come back up here. So I think Diaz, the catcher, Ahmed, those are pretty good insurance policy acquisitions. And I'm not going to say I told you so when they made that trade deadline deal to get Martin Perez. Here we go. You know, he pitched poorly for the Pirates, pitched poorly for Texas. He had 2 decent starts out of the gate for the Padres. And since then, 13 innings, 8 runs allowed, 25 base runners. He's regressed to what he was before I told you so. So the Padres starting rotation, a little wear and tear here, a little bit frayed, especially with the innings issues with King and Cease not looking like the vintage no-hit Dylan Cease. So that's where my theory is now as they open this homestand with the Tigers and the Giants before they go back out on the road. They're 5 back. That's a bit of a hill still to run up.
You love saying, I told you so, don't you? Don't you?
When you know, you know.
When you know, you know. You know, so, I mean, as far as the Padres are going, the Luis Campusano thing is just kind of weird, you know, because we always knew that defensively it was his shortcoming. And then during the, you know, we always thought of him as an offensive catcher. But he's not producing offensively. Isn't his batting average is like right around the Mendoza line?
Yeah, when I was a shade above, it was 239. But he had a stretch, he was hitting 043.
Yeah.
But the bigger issue to me is just the defensive lapses. Doesn't throw a lot of guys out on the bases. And there's pass balls going to the backstop and stuff that he can't block or doesn't get blocked or mechanically doesn't handle pitches in the dirt very consistently. So Diaz is more of a veteran guy, and Diaz has got some power. Diaz is not going to hit 043 like Campusano did earlier in the season. So there's just a bunch of issues with the completeness of Campusano's games. And, you know, he's caught a bunch. And luckily we got, you know, here's Shioka, who I think has had an unbelievable year coming from the New York Yankees. And the Yankees probably wish they still had him because they got their own set of catching problems. So I think the acquisition of Diaz helps a great deal. But this Padre team, I'm not saying they're running on fumes, but they're not playing as good right now as they need to be playing if they have hopes of chasing down the Dodgers. And, you know, Atlanta is right behind them now in the rearview mirror because Atlanta started to get healthy, and the Braves have made up a lot of ground here. And the Braves, I think, are only 2 back of the Padres. And the other thing, most everybody in this wild card race has games in hand on the Padres. The Padres have played more games than anybody else in this National League wild card chase. So things here I think you got to pay attention to.
Well, it's just the natural wear and tear of your pitching rotation as the season goes on. It doesn't surprise me that Vasquez kind of washes in, washes out. But Dylan Cease is an interesting guy because in the game on what game did he pitch? It was it Friday or Saturday, or was it Sunday?
Sunday.
It was Sunday's game.
Threw 10 balls in a row.
He did, but had a perfect game through the first 3. And so I think to your point is that he is tiring, and it seemed like when he got, to the 5th or the 6th, things got a little squirrely for him. So yeah, it might be a tiring issue, but he still looks good. And if you're in the playoffs and you have a Dylan Cease as one of your 3 or 4 guys, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but if you have a Dylan Cease and Michael King and both are gassed because of the innings, the volume that they've pitched, please understand this. You're not playing the White Sox or the Pirates in postseason.
Yeah.
If it's a wild card round, you're playing somebody legitimate with legitimate batting order. I'd be worried about that right now. Now, the Padres, they're going to have 5 off days in the month of September, which is kind of unique. So that maybe they'll be able to take a deep breath, but they do need innings because the bullpen's starting to show a little wear and tear too.
Well, they're 5 games back of the Dodgers. I mean, that's the headline. Can they catch the Dodgers? I'd be interested in seeing the statistics on this because they have 5 off games. I mean, they'd probably have to win 80% of the games going away, assuming the Dodgers probably went something like 500.
Yeah, then Dodgers are scuffling right now with injuries, but the Dodgers aren't giving ground. You know, the Dodgers, up until what happened yesterday, Dodgers had won 16 of 21. And that's with this mess of injuries and Freddie Freeman being out. 16 to 21. So I don't know that the Dodgers are giving ground. The Padres just have to make sure they don't slip back and have Atlanta catch them, because you surely don't want to finish 3rd in a wild card race because, pal, you're going on the road.
Oh, yeah. No, remember they had to do that 2 years ago, and that's a tough assignment.
Yeah. So that's where we are with Padre baseball. Hey, Friar fan, join us in Fans Forum. Jump into the chat box right now. We go from that to the next team that we always talk about.
The Dodgers. You just commented about how they're 16-5 despite all the wreckage.
Let's talk about this situation. They had a really bad experience at the Arizona Diamondbacks on Sunday. And Dave Roberts was catching a lot of crap because he did this. He left their starter, Justin Robleski, in. He gave up 8 runs in the 2nd inning, and he left him on the mound. He left the kid out there to give up 10 runs total. The Dodgers have played baseball for 141 years, John Riley. And this weekend, they set 2 records. No Dodger pitcher in 141 years, no Dodger starter, had been allowed to give up 10 runs and stay in the game. Robleski did.
Okay, that's not a good one to break.
Friday, Dodgers' first 3 batters. Home run, home run, home run. In the 141-year history of Dodger baseball,
that's cool.
Nobody has hit 3 homers in a row, top 3 guys in the batting order to lead off a game. The Dodgers guys did that too. So that's really interesting. Clayton Kershaw pulled after the 1st inning in Arizona. He got lit up for 8 runs in the 2nd inning on Friday. Kershaw's got a bone spur in his toe. He's got so many physical maladies. Now, they're not saying they're going to do surgery on it, but you don't come back from bone spurs real quickly. Even if you give him a cortisone injection, it might be a couple or 3 weeks. So you got the Kershaw thing. They're not telling the truth, but obviously something's really significantly wrong with Tyler Glasnow. He's still not throwing after all these weeks on the DL with, quote, the tender elbow. And again, he's got a history of elbow problems, John, back in Pittsburgh, led to surgery, and obviously in Tampa Bay. They've lost Joe Kelly for the 3rd time this year. He's got a bicep issue. He goes back on the DL. Yash Yamamoto had the one good rehab outing, only threw 1 inning, has to go back, they think, at Oklahoma City. He's not ready to rejoin them. Weird story. I don't know how this is possible. Tony Gonsolin, who was like their 4th or 5th starter last year and a half, he's missed this entire season with elbow surgery. He's thrown bullpens. They think he might be at Dodger Stadium within the next 2 weeks and ready to join them. Now, here's the thing that might save them. Even though they got all these injuries to the pitching staff, even though they look like they're wheezing and about to topple, they have 11 games coming up on the Dodger schedule against the Angels, the Rockies, and the Marlins. They got 11. So, dude, they're not going to play 500 ball against those guys.
Yeah, they're going to be cruising.
So they'll cruise into first place. The question is, how healthy will they be when they start playing real people? Because you're not playing the White Sox and the Marlins and the Pirates or the Rockies in postseason play. So those are the Dodger headlines right now. They got issues, but they're still in first place.
You know, the pitcher that went 10 runs, you know, in how many innings was it?
He gave up 8 in the 2nd inning. He left him and got shelled in the 3rd. They dragged him into the 5th inning because the bullpen had been burned out.
Exactly. That's what I kind of thought, is that the bullpen, you know, probably needed a couple of days rest. And so sometimes I've seen the Padres do this where they'll stick with a starter longer than you think.
It's called take one for the team.
Exactly. You know, it's exactly what that is. So the Dodgers are 16-5 in their last 21. And how in the hell are the fans upset at Dave Roberts? I mean, this seems like a miracle worker as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, in fact, he's been able to hold this thing together with all the injuries and all the personal problems that Freeman had, and then Freeman's fractured finger, and Mookie Betts and Max Muncy has not come back to be vintage Max Muncy yet. still in first place. And, Ohtani was hitting 155 for almost a month. Now he started to hit again and kind of find himself. But I guess it's convenient to blame somebody, so they blame Dave Roberts.
Right.
But the Dodgers are wafer thin right now in pitching because of all the injuries. So you're a Dodger fan. I don't care if you're in San Diego. I don't care if you're in Los Angeles or Orange County. Jump into the Fans Forum chat box. Give us your opinion. Can the Dodgers hold on? And what do you think the postseason really looks like because of the wreckage of this Dodger roster? John, we go from baseball to what's just around the corner.
The NFL is getting started, baby. This is a good time of the year. Let's get going.
Okay, this is all off the field. I'm going to run a couple stories up the flagpole here. Tom Brady, legendary quarterback, going to work for Fox TV as an analyst.
Hey.
Tom Brady, the entrepreneur, is negotiating to buy minority ownership in the Raiders. NFL owners have stood up in front of Roger Goodell and say there are problems with Tom Brady owning the Raiders and being on NFL telecast. The NFL on the weekend banned Tom Brady from being in any team's facility leading up to a game that he's going to broadcast. They've banned him from being on the field at any practice of a team that he's going to broadcast. They banned him from taking part in any of the coaching or players' interview sessions with the network TV guys who go in on Friday, meet with the coaches on Saturday to get inside information. Brady can't be part of that. If I'm Fox TV, having paid all this money for the Fox package, would you not stand up and say, how can my guy do his job if he's not given equal access to all the other network broadcasters are? I think it's terribly unfair to Brady. And Brady ought to drop the idea about becoming an investor with the Raiders if he wants to work in the media. But I think it's really unfair. Brady's not going to run and tell Antonio Pierce, the Raiders coach, what he found out about this team because he was broadcasting a certain team on a certain weekend. So that just kind of came out of nowhere. Second item, scary story, San Francisco, ugly story, San Francisco. This is the life and the world we live in. Ricky Pearsall, number 1 draft pick wide receiver, Florida State, 49ers wide receiver, on his way to a charity event at Union Square in San Francisco, autograph signing session with young kids, held up, gunpoint, 17-year-old punk. Why anybody would take on a 6'4" football player, that's kind of unique.
Yeah.
Anyhow, there was a big tussle. Pearsall got shot in the upper chest, went through the back of his shoulder, got the gun and shot the 17-year-old who's still in the hospital. Pearsall was lucky the location of the shot was here rather than in his true chest. Tough story. And you're going to love this one. You know the antitrust lawsuit?
Right.
Okay. The jury found the National Football League guilty of antitrust violations with the Sunday NFL ticket pricing. Then the judge overturned the jury's decision on the financial awards and threw the case out of court. Said if you wish to try it again, you can try it again. That's fine. The NFL on the weekend filed suit against the 2 million fans whose name, addresses, phone numbers, and emails are on that lawsuit. They have filed suit demanding $389,751 from the fans who watch the NFL on TV, who filed this class action lawsuit. Just absolutely amazing. Just amazing. The NFL, all about show me the money.
Right.
Suing the fans who sued the NFL for the antitrust violation.
Right.
And the NFL was guilty of a violation. The only thing that was overturned was how the jury reached the dollar amount that the fans group would get. Now the NFL sued the fans. They want the fans to pay the legal fees for the case that, quote, they won. Well, they didn't win the case. Just amazing. So, John, go ahead. Talk about Brady. Talk about Pearsall. Talk about the NFL. Is your name on that lawsuit?
I know.
You're going to move out of this castle? They want your house. Go ahead, John.
Well, it's it goes to show you how profitable the NFL is. If you can sue your customers and they keep coming back, and so again, like I hope the NFL ends up winning the antitrust thing. I think it's a bunch of baloney, but it's common, for the countersuit thing to happen. I want to talk about Tom Brady because it's interesting because we know he was given that #1 spot on Fox. And he displaced
Greg Olson.
Yeah, Olson, and we thought that was kind of uncool, but it's Brady. We get that. But yeah, it's a conflict of interest. It's not just that he's going to feed information from one team to the other, but if you're going to be an objective reporter, you can't also be the owner of the team that you're reporting on. So, but it is wild to me that he would prioritize being a minority owner in the Raiders where you have no control. That's more valuable to him than this high paid gig being a color commentator.
Well, you could always put off investing till you go through the first year on Fox and see whether or not you actually like it, if you're comfortable. I don't know how good he's going to be. I don't know how good Belichick's going to be on all the, quote, media stuff that he's doing. But from a Fox TV standpoint, you're blocking your lead analyst from having access to coaches and practices and getting the storylines he needs to talk about. You get that on Friday and Saturday for the Sunday telecast. So there's got to be some common ground here. But like I said, Brady should just step away from the whole Raider situation for the time being and just go be Tommy TV guy and see if he likes it and see if he does a good job at it. But to totally block him, that just doesn't make any sense to me. It's not fair. If it were me, how could I do my job if I did not have access to the coaches and the players and get all the data that I need for my telecast, my broadcast on Sunday?
Yeah, I agree with you. And it makes me wonder if maybe Brady knows something. Maybe there's some insider trading thing going on, but that he wants to get a minority stake in the Raiders because maybe they think it's going to sell and he can flip that and make some big money.
He's always been about that, except when he invested in cryptocurrency, which cost him $43 million.
I remember that.
That one did not work out very well. So you're an NFL fan. Your reaction to the Tom Brady story, feel free to jump on board, talk about the other storylines. Did you get sued? Those of you on this podcast on live stream, was your name on that lawsuit? You owe the NFL $389,751 in legal fees. This story just blows my mind. Okay, we go from that. College football. Let's start here in town, John.
Yeah, the San Diego State Aztecs had their opener. What'd you think, Lee?
In the beginning, not very good. Second half, wow, they flipped that thing. I was very impressed with the athletes. Now, to pull a hacksaw quote on you, I told you so. Again.
You said you didn't know. Now you say you told me so.
I told you that they were going to run a lot of wide receivers onto the field.
Yes.
I told you they were going to wear out that defense that Texas A&M Commerce had.
Yes.
First half, they scuffled and they struggled. The second half, Commerce was done. At the end of the second quarter, I made notes during the first and second quarter. At the end of the second quarter, I wrote down Commerce's defense is gassed. In the second half, the Aztecs threw the ball anywhere they want. They ran the ball, hit them with a chunk of big plays. Kid quarterback Danny O'Neal had stage fright to start. My only question I had watching what they called the first three possessions, and they really scuffled. Why are you having him sit in a shotgun trying to throw deep passes? He overthrew everybody. Took a few hits along the way. Why don't you start him out, throw crossing pass pattern short, throw to the tight ends, throw safety valves to your running backs. Just get him into a rhythm and flow. By the middle of the second quarter, they started dinking. He got into a rhythm, and he really found himself. I was very impressed with his accuracy, obviously impressed with his courage to stand in the pocket, his athleticism. He broke off two pretty decent-sized runs there. I thought they got better and better, but they were running wide receiver groupings in there. Commerce had no way to defend him because Commerce's kids, they ran out of legs. Aztecs are averaging 3 snaps every 51 seconds.
Nice.
That's a phenomenal amount of plays. They wound up, I think they round up running off 79 plays, 468 yards. A lot of that was damage done in the second half because Texas A&M just kind of died on the field. 47-yard touchdown run by Marquez Cooper, 44-yard touchdown pass. They had fumble recovery in the end zone. They had 3 takeaways, 4 sacks, 8 tackles for losses. And they finally just beat the daylights out of Commerce's offensive and defensive lines over the course of the game. They had 8 plays of 19 yards or more. So I just came from the press conference today with Sean Lewis. I said, congratulations. You're the only coach in the country that's in first place in 2 conferences as of this hour. First place tie in the Mountain West Conference with Boise State because they both won. And you're in first place in the Southland Conference because you beat Texas A&M Commerce. He laughed. Now, that being said, take a deep breath. I hope you enjoyed this because they get Oregon State next weekend. Oregon State ran for 379 yards. Now, granted, that was against Idaho State, but they did it with a transfer running back from Colorado that Sean Lewis knows and a transfer running back from Ole Miss. 379 yards rushing. They're going to play big boy football against San Diego State Saturday. So that bears watching. Crosstown USD. Last year was an absolute lost cause. The hazing crisis that involved more than half the football players. The decision not to allow the coach Brandon Moore to talk to the media at all when this story broke in preseason camp. It was like the program was completely off everybody's radar. Nobody came to the games. By the way, didn't win hardly any games at all. It was a disaster. Well, now the embargoes have been lifted. Shame on the university for how they handled the hazing thing and what they did to that new head coach. They come out of the gate and he beat Cal Poly. 3 pass interceptions, 2 taken back for touchdowns, ran for 188 yards. Toreros looked pretty good. And by the way, that's against a Cal Poly 1AA team. It's got scholarship players and it's been a pretty good program. Now they go from that, and they got 2 more tough games. They're going to play Central Washington, a Division II power scholarship team, this weekend. And then they go to North Dakota, and that's going to be really hard because that's one of the better 1AA programs in the country. But Brandon Moore came out of the gate real quick, and they gave away a lot of tickets. They had 5,000 fans there. Haven't seen big wins like that in a while. So that's kind of a statement game, and maybe it's a jumping off point for USD to start to become what they used to be under Dale Lindsey, which was pretty upper echelon within their division of play. John Riley just managed to text me while I was in the press box at the Aztecs game that he was sitting with the rich and famous on the 50-yard line in the upper deck at Snapdragon Stadium. So you had a much better view of the game than I did, but John Riley, tell me what you thought from the Richman Seats about what the Aztecs did, and then a comment about the Toreros.
Okay, well, first of all, it was a great time. I mean, it's a fun event to go to Aztec football.
And that stadium was rocking.
And the stadium is great. People are having fun. I wish there were more people there.
Only 18,000, but now there's a chance to get more based on how dynamic the way they played was.
So I'm watching the first half, and it seemed like the offense was going backwards more than forward with all the penalties.
Yeah.
There were so many penalties.
31 penalties.
Yeah, it was insane. And there was such little scoring. And then like midway through, I think the second quarter, I looked up on my phone. I go, I wonder what the point spread on this game is. And it was 34. And it was 6-3. The Aztecs were losing at halftime, and this is a 34-point spread. And then it ended up finishing, 45-14. So it ended up being a 31. So that's maybe a bad beat. But at any rate, it was exciting to watch how the team changed. It makes you wonder what the halftime speech was. What was the message? Hopefully, it was just calm down. Because Danny O'Neill looked terrific in the second half. The defense was swarming, had a lot of, balls that were returned for touchdowns or fumbles they returned for touchdowns. And yeah, O'Neill was overthrowing his guys by like 5 yards in the first half. But the second half, man, right on the money. Well,
they ran so many receivers. I think they had 9 receivers that saw action. And I think he might have completed passes to a total of 12 people. But they just ran the legs off Texas A&M Commerce. They had nobody who could stay with these guys. And it got to be single coverage. And the Aztecs' 3rd and 4th guys, receivers were blowing by the corners and safeties who couldn't keep up with them because they were done. They were gassed. So now that's 1AA football. So they're in first place in the Southland Conference in the Mountain West. Here comes Oregon State because these next 2 weekends are going to really be hard. And they've already lost their left tackle. He's gone down with a knee injury, and I think he's going to be out a chunk of time. No decision yet whether they have to operate on him, but when you lose your left tackle, that's huge. But Danny O'Neill progressively got better and better, more confident. No doubt he's got guts. He stood in the pocket and he took some shots, but then he also broke the pocket and he rolled out and he ripped off a big run. I think the thing that really surprised me once they settled him, he was so accurate. Even on deep post pattern stuff, he dropped it right in there. So,
and that running back was really good too.
Well, he's a 4th-year starter, Marquez Cooper.
Yeah.
He's a stud at this level, at the group of 5 level. That's a player. So my only beef was when you were blowing them out, I would have rather seen the second quarterback get snaps, give A.J. Duffy snaps. And I want to see the other running backs get a chance, because you don't want to get O'Neal nor Marquez Cooper hurt in the fourth quarter of a blowout win. But I didn't ask that question today because I didn't want to ruin Sean Lewis's press conference. But that was a pretty good start. But that was against a team from the Southland Conference who was 1-9 last season.
So was Sean Lewis, was it good vibes, or was he cautious, or what was his feeling?
Well, he was, first of all, his press conferences are like his offense. He talks really fast. It's really hard to write down notes and get good quotes because he is gone and he takes the next question, is answering that question, and you're trying to keep up the answer from the prior question.
Right.
He's fun to be around. Hit him with a couple of real broadside questions today. The one I really wanted to ask, but I decided not to do it. I kind of asked it in part. I said, Sean, you spent all of the summer and preseason telling us about Aztec Fast. Did I misinterpret that? I thought you were talking about your offense. Well, you didn't lie to us, did you, Sean? Were you actually meant Aztec Fast, your defense? I kind of laughed. That defense was unbelievably fast. I mean, they got there fast, they got there in a foul mood.
Mm-hmm.
And that I was so impressed. And we have been spoiled. We've seen great defenses at San Diego State, what Rocky Long packaged, what Brady Hoke brought. I don't think I've ever seen an Aztec defense could run like this cast of characters. I mean, they were everywhere on the field. That poor quarterback from Commerce must have thought he was in the Canadian League. Other 12 and 13 guys on the field. He couldn't find anybody. He kept getting hit. So Aztec offense kicked it into gear at the start of the third quarter, and that kid quarterback handled it very well. And I was pretty impressed. And obviously the Aztec defense. But that's against them. That's against 1AA football.
Yeah, we'll take the win, right? I mean,
not going to argue with you about that. But here comes Oregon State. Here comes Cal. The next two games are tough. And then you go into the Mountain West Conference and wow.
Well, Cal will be a little easier than Oregon State, I would think, but we'll find out. I just want to say also that prior to the game, I went out to that river walk area, kind of underneath the trolley. It was pretty nice. They had a beer garden, they had food, they had a live band, they had a big screen TV with other college games on. That's a good vibe. They have an opportunity to create a real nice tailgate scene.
I think the environment there could be unbelievable. And that stadium, I mean, I give credit, the student body finally showed up. The show showed up in the end zone seats, and they were at their drunken finest. It was really fun. And by the way, I won't say this except one time. Don't ever do that to me again. John Riley stands up in the first quarter, glass of wine in his hand, and salutes me in the press box, sitting there in the corner of the press box with a bad view from his 50-yard line seat because he's enjoying the game with the rich and famous. Don't do that to me. I'm your co-host.
Yeah, well, you probably got in for free, but you're in the press box. I should have been hanging out with you, but I had a great time with one of my buddies. We had it was a good one.
Only thing I'll say, Aztec fan, disenfranchised Charger fan, you need a football fix, you ought to sample Snapdragon Stadium. It's kind of cool. Hey, we get to halftime. Our Monday podcast is off and running. You got questions, you got comments, you got statements to make. Do it right now. Get into the Fans Forum chat box. Tell us what your thoughts are. What we've talked about, Padres, Dodgers, what we just talked about, the NFL Notebook, and obviously Aztec football. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. Which project have you done in this castle you have here that you worked with DIXIELINE that you like the most?
Well, it's definitely the front door. I mean, it is cool because shopping for a front door is not something an everyday person usually does. But I went down to their door and window showroom. They had this great, all the doors there to sample. We got a cool one that looks kind of like a door you'd see on the front of a castle.
Yeah, we're in Germany.
Yeah, exactly. It's got these big rivets on the door and a little speakeasy window, which is kind of fun. And so they came out. They recommended a contractor who did the installation. It was a terrific experience.
DIXIELINE Lumber. You got projects, they've got materials. You want ideas? These are the people to talk to. DIXIELINE. Couple of reminders before we go to the second half of this podcast. You're on social media. You're on Twitter. I want you to join my Twitter all-star team. When we're done, just go to X, type in my handle, @Hacksaw1090, hit the follow button, join my Twitter all-star team, see all the things I put up on social media. There's a lot of stuff. Most of it you like, some of it you might disagree with. That's okay. In addition, check my website. I write sports every day of the week. It's there first thing every morning for you. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. There's an email box on the lower right-hand side. If you got a comment about what I'm writing about, especially my one man's opinion column, feel free to send me an email. Take your best shot. You give me your one man's opinion about my one man's opinion. Hell, this guy does it all the time. So check my website. Also on the front page of the website, there is a big orange box for Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Fill it out because I'm going to convince John Riley to take us out for shots of tequila. And if you're a member of the Insiders Group, you're probably going to get the chance to go with us. So do that. And then share, subscribe. That way you'll get all the alerts every time one of us puts something up on the YouTube channel, and that happens quite often. And when we're done, Fans Forum, your chance to sound off. John Riley's the one who created this concept. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is your chance to, pick up the phone, pick a topic. So if you've got a question or comment for Lee, just type it in the live chat on Facebook, X, or YouTube, and we'll get to you at the conclusion of Hacksaw's headlines.
On we go. Let's go to the second half here. John, where do you want to start?
Yeah, we're going to talk a little more Southern California football. What do you think of the debuts of these two teams?
Southern Cal beat LSU. Man, Lincoln Riley, he knows talent, he knows offense, and he hired a pretty good defensive coordinator, Danton Lynn from UCLA. That was some performance by the Trojans, a quarterback, Miller Moss, 27-20 victory. Miller Moss goes 27 for 36, throwing the football, 378 yards. I told you last week, look out for Zachariah Branch. I probably should have added in, remember the name Lynn, remember the name Lemon, remember the name Hydra. Those guys made some unbelievable catches during the course of that game, and Miller Moss was on target a lot. What I wanted to see was how good their defense was going to be, and their defense was big, it was physical, and they got to the ball at the point of attack. They wound up with 447 yards. And Garrett Nussmeier, the starting quarterback from LSU, is a pretty good quarterback. He kind of ran out of steam in the second half because he was under such a siege. He threw for 304 and 2 touchdowns. So this Trojans team made a national statement, and everybody has said Lincoln Riley might not have been a good hire. Should retract that comment because that was pretty impressive. And Miller Moss is a sixth-year quarterback who stayed, didn't transfer, never got a chance to play till the Holiday Bowl when he threw 6 touchdowns there. He was impressive, and that was a great LSU team led by Brian Kelly that they beat. UCLA, they got problems. They were trailing into the third quarter at Hawaii, and Hawaii is one of the lower echelon teams in the Mountain West Conference, and the Bruins just could not move the football. Ethan Garbers threw 2 interceptions in the first half. At one point was 8 for 21 throwing the football. He couldn't run the football worth a lick, which really stunned me because I thought with TJ Harden and some of the other transfers, Keegan Jones, I thought they'd be better, but it didn't happen that way. Defense kind of bailed them at the end, and they used field goals to get back in the game. UCLA was lucky they won that one, but the schedule, it's not forgiving. It's going to be really, really hard. So my thoughts on the Trojans, you saw a chunk of that game. My thoughts on UCLA, tell me what you think.
Okay, well, as far as both teams, I'm happy they came out of the gate with the win, especially SC, who has something to prove. They're going up against LSU. I mean, SC was ranked, I think, 23, and LSU was what? Do you remember?
They were outside the top 15. They're in a little bit of rebuild mode.
Yeah,
because
but they're still more highly ranked than SC was.
Oh, sure.
So this was a big win for the program. I think that's terrific. I saw the highlight of one of the catches one of the receivers made, one-handed.
Hudson went up between 2 defenders and grabbed the ball. There were some amazing catches around college football, but That's a highlight reel catch.
It was incredible. But I do have one big beef. I couldn't watch the game, because I have DirecTV Stream, and I go to ABC and I click on it and it says, oh, we're sorry. We're had contract negotiations with Disney, who owns ABC. So their contract must have expired on August 31st, and I got screwed on that. I was really looking forward to that game.
So that's what happens when you hang out with Rich and Famous and leave your friends behind in the press box. Okay, SC wins, UCLA scuffles and finds a victory. You're a Trojan fan. You like college football, jump on board. And we're not done talking college football. Other topics here, John.
Yeah, we do. Let's look at the big board here, Lee. You got a lot of important teams here.
Yeah, a lot of controversy. Tell you what, they are not happy in South Carolina at Clemson. They are not happy with Dabo Swinney. He did not go into the transfer portal to get a quarterback. They've got unbelievable financial support at Clemson for their athletic programs. He went with a freshman. He is aghast at the NIL. He does not like the transfer portal, but it is the way of life, and he's refused to do it. Last year, he had only 2 transfers in the program. Dabo Swinney's taken a lot of heat in Clemson after they got rocked this past weekend. And the heat is pretty severe at Florida, where they got whacked at home, and Billy Napier, who did not have a good season last year, comes out of the gate this year, and the Gators get bashed again. Tell you, he may not survive the season. They might make a coaching change in the middle of the season. Colorado opened with a victory. Shedeur Sanders was phenomenal, 454 yards passing. Dion was strutting up and down the sidelines with the quarterback, his son. I'll tell you what, I don't like his other son. I think Shiloh Sanders is a cheap shot artist. He's got a lot of junk off the field. I mean, criminal cases, lawsuits, and all that. He plays like a punk. He buried a receiver going into the bench, into the fence. Why the officials did not throw a flag on him on that one, came back in the second half and did the exact same thing in front of the bench and finally got flagged with a chance he was going to get ejected from the game. But Shedeur Sanders, he took a lot of hits again. They have not quite fixed that offensive line yet. But Shedeur looks like he's a top 5 pick in the draft. Boise State, that's the 4th logo there on the right. They go into a place called Georgia Southern, which is one of the really good group of 5 schools. Georgia Southern used to be a 1AA power. Now they're moved up. They get a lot of bounce backs from the SEC, the ACC. Boise State went in there and battered them. And Austin Genty might be the 2nd best running back in the country. 267 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns for Boise State in the win at Georgia Southern. That was impressive. We talked about Oregon State Beavers. Man, they came flying out of the gate. 379 yards rushing with the 2 transfer running backs. Oregon State's going to be here to play San Diego State. The best part of opening day in college football is it's opening day. I watched so many games till my eyes almost fell on my head. But some of them I don't like. So you got your payday. You took your beating. Thanks for coming. Go home. Ohio State, 52-6 over Akron. It was terribly one-sided. Texas, 52-0 over Colorado State. And I felt really bad for the starting quarterback at CSU because he's one of the best quarterbacks in the Mountain West Conference. Alabama beat Western Kentucky 63-0. Jalen Milroe, Heisman candidate, 278 all-purpose yards. And the worst one was Ole Miss, 76, Furman, 0. Furman is one of the smaller 1AA schools in the country. It's obvious. Here's your $650,000 payday. Thanks for coming. Get on the bus. Go home. I'm sorry all your players got hurt. Lane Kiffin left his quarterback into the 4th quarter. Jason Dart threw for 418 and 5 touchdowns. Ole Miss, 76-0 over Furman. I don't think that kind of stuff has to happen in modern-day college football, but it still does. So, John, I kind of jumped around the checkerboard here. Go ahead.
Does the ranking system prioritize or give benefit for lopsided wins? Is that part of the formula anymore?
I think strength of schedule and quality wins is more important than beating Furman 76-0.
Right.
Now, if you get upset by a 1AA, and that has happened,
yes,
as witnessed by Appalachian State years ago, beating Michigan in Ann Arbor, you could get really hurt badly if you lose to 1AA, but that hardly ever happens.
You see that happen in basketball, though,
Oh, yeah.
where, the payday team will go the other way. Colorado, how about that Travis Hunter, man? I mean, that guy is incredible athlete.
Yeah, he played. Did he play 80? I want to think I heard 82 snaps at 89. He played both sides of the ball, and he made some unbelievable catches. He is so gifted and such a great athlete. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter could be 2 of the top 10 picks in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. And the other comment I want to make is on that Clemson game. I was watching it, and again, I'm on DirecTV stream, and it's on, and then it gave me a little message, says, hey, would you like to watch this in 4K? And I said, sure. And so I was watching the game in 4K, all was good, and then suddenly there was no sound. There was no announcer, and I realized the camera was in the back corner of the stadium, and it was like, was there like an evacuation? Is it a bomb warning? It turned out that they didn't have any studio, any commercial feed on this. And so it was just kind of an odd broadcast. Like someone forgot to monetize it on the DirecTV, 4K stream. It was weird.
Yeah, you and ABC and DirecTV just not getting along very well. So those are college football stories. I'm just going to hopscotch around. You Fans Forum chat box is open. You got an opinion about some of the things you've heard us talk about in college football, notably the Colorado situation, what Boise State did, and obviously the payday games. Jump into the chat box right now because we'll be going to the Fans Forum in just a little bit. Basketball, John.
Yeah, I love talking basketball. I am excited for the Aztecs and for the Toreros.
Interesting story. We have obviously followed Jay Ledee. Aztec power forward, All-American, did not get drafted, did not get invited to the NBA camp, did play in the summer league, signed an Exhibit 10 contract to go back to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Okay.
What that allows him to do, Jadon gets to do, is to go be in camp. He'll be one of 20 players in camp. And if they like what he does, and I think they're trying to convert him into a defensive specialist with his bulk, forward, center, etc., he'll probably get the chance to go to the NBA G League and play for the Minnesota Timberwolves G League team to start the season. And that's a good learning curve, and he'll get reps, and he'll play under one of the assistants from the Minnesota Timberwolves. So that'll help him grow. And then if somebody gets hurt, maybe he gets a phone call. The other story is the University of San Diego. And I'll say something that's kind of weird. I feel really bad for Steve Lavin. I mean, he's a nice gentleman, very good coach, had tremendous success at UCLA and some success at St. John's. Went on to TV, left TV, came back, took the USD job. It's like he's coaching in the shadows. Nobody pays attention to USD basketball. They don't have a big NIL program. Everybody's come in and cherry-picked his players, including San Diego State took his top veteran guard, Wayne McKinney. Anyhow, USD has just announced they've gotten another gift for renovations for the Jenny Craig Pavilion, which is important, $5 million. They changed the lighting. They're putting up a huge screen, big billboard videos, obviously improving the locker room facilities, etc. I feel bad for Steve Lavin because he's a good coach, good guy, and he's kind of working in the shadows, and nobody really pays attention to Torero's athletics. Football's mess last year, and he just doesn't get very much coverage. They don't play for many of their own student body, and it's a much smaller university. But this is good. The Jenny Craig Foundation gave another $5 million for renovations at the Jenny Craig Pavilion where the basketball team plays. So you want to talk about Ledee? Talk about USD. Go ahead.
Well, for USD, I love the nickname for the facility is the Slim Jim.
Yeah.
For Jenny Craig, it's a fantastic little nickname. Steve Lavin's a good dude, and he's a San Francisco guy. And, he was at the peak of the top programs, and to have him here in San Diego is really kind of a treat. So hopefully USD kind of can revive that program. It's interesting with Jaden Ledee because during the summer league, he wasn't getting much playing time. And we were concerned about that. And we're like, how in the hell can the Karl Malone power forward of the year not be getting any playing time, much less not get drafted? But then Mark Ziegler in one of his columns said that the Timberwolves already kind of understand Ledee, and they didn't really need to showcase him as much in those summer league games because they already knew what they had. And that made me feel a little bit hopeful that there might be a future for him with the Timberwolves. But yeah, that guy has got an NBA body and he can bang around. And when they bring in these young kids that are 18, 19, 20, he can knock those guys out of the post and, just with a little flip.
So I think they'll develop him as a defensive specialist. And I still think he's got offensive game, but maybe at his size, at 6'8", 6'9", he's not going to be able to get the shots off against much quicker forwards, but he gets a chance to go to camp, and on Exhibit 10, he can wind up going to the G League team. And if he plays well enough, they can flip that into a two-way contract. Then he gets more money. He goes to the T-Wolves when they need help, or they send him back to the G League to play. There's a whole bunch of those guys. That's where they started their career, on two-way contracts. So good for him. We'll follow him as we go. We go from that to talk hockey.
Sad day in hockey, Lee. I mean, really sad.
I was driving home from hospital therapy. I do therapy 3 days a week, my back. And I got a text from hockey friends that said, "You're not going to believe this. Johnny Hockey has died." And I immediately knew who they were talking about. Johnny Gaudreau, a Columbus Blue Jackets high-scoring forward, formerly young star with the Calgary Flames. He and his brother were biking in New Jersey, in rural New Jersey, Thursday night. It was not even sunset yet, and got hit by a drunk driver, a guy that was weaving in and out of lanes, and pulled out into a lane, saw a truck coming, pulled back into the lane, pulled right into the two bikers and killed them instantly. Oof. Terrible, terrible story. The driver had a .19 blood alcohol count, admitted that he had 6 beers before he got in his car. Johnny Gaudreau, Boston College star, American-born, 243 goals in his career with Calgary and then with Columbus. I tried to think, I mean, my heart went to the floor because I follow this kid, I know this of this kid, etc. And my heart went to the floor, and I just thought, what a terrible story. And then I found out that he and his brother were there because their sister was getting married the next day, and they were going to be in the wedding party. And they died instantly. It was just terrible. And the outpouring of emotion in hockey is unbelievable. If you go on X on Twitter and you type in Johnny Gaudreau, you won't believe the videos of the fans who have made the front of the Nationwide Arena in Columbus where the Blue Jackets play, or the Olympic Saddle Dome where the Flames play. They made them into shrines. Flowers, hockey gear, jerseys, pennants. The outpouring of emotion has been amazing. And the Toronto Blue Jays, at home plate before their game on Friday, I think, had a moment of silence for Johnny Hockey.
Nice.
It's just been absolutely amazing. And I tried to think of him, what made him different. He was a mighty mite. He was small, and he was crafty, and he was quick, and he could score. It was his smile. Every time they flashed the camera on him, on the ice, on the bench, coming off after a shift, or raising his arms after he put one in, there was just a magnanimous sunshine smile. That's why they actually came up with the name Johnny Hockey. So just a horribly, horribly sad story, and NHL is in mourning for that guy.
Yeah, it's a tough time in the NHL. I mean, you're choking up a little bit talking about it. Yep. It just goes to show you that a lot of these professional athletes, they're just regular human beings, and they've got family, and they've got a wedding to go to, and then these kinds of random tragedies happen, and we've seen this a lot, with Kobe Bryant, and we can make a list of a lot of other athletes that have experienced these terrible deaths and accidents like this. So yeah, Johnny Gaudreau, I don't know a lot about him because I'm just learning about hockey, but I know the name, and I know he's one of the big players in the NHL. And
he's one of the top goal scorers in Columbus. And in fact, when he broke in Calgary, when he came from Boston College, he had another young player in Calgary by the name of Sean Monahan, and they became young stars growing up together. Well, because of salary cap problems, Calgary couldn't re-sign everybody. So they wound up making trades. And Monahan wound up getting traded because of salary cap problems to Montreal. Johnny Hockey wound up going to Columbus. Columbus just signed Sean Monahan in June to an NHL free agent contract. They were going to link Monahan to Johnny Hockey together, and they were best buddies. So just a terribly, terribly sad story. Hockey Hotline is open. You got memories? Our O Canada group will be joining us. Feel free to send us something in the chat box and fans forum on Johnny Hockey. We go from that Here's John Riley's other favorite segment, aside from including the fans. It's what we call Hacksaw's Headlines.
Yeah, the high-speed sports wire, which is one of the greatest inventions of all time.
Okay, let's just run through this quickly. U.S. Open tennis. We've had victories, and boy, have we had some shockers along the way. Let's talk about the names in the news. Novak Djokovic got knocked out in the third round. His game unraveled. I've never seen this from Djokovic. 32 double faults in 3 matches. Djokovic gone. Then Carlos Alcaraz, the next budding star on the horizon, he didn't get out of the third round. Now, the Russians did. Alexander Zverev, Daniel Medvedev, they're still there as we move to the quarterfinals and the semifinals. On the women's side, Iga Swiatek continues to win. Coco Gauff, our next star from the U.S., I think is right on the brink of being great. She won her quarterfinal match, and then she fell apart. She had 19 double faults. She plays like you and me. 19 double faults in one match.
Wow.
She got knocked out. Arina Sabalenka posted another win, so she's moved on with Swiatek in the women's final. So it's been a strange U.S. Open at Forest Hills and Flushing Meadow. We go from that PGA Tour. Scottie Scheffler. What a season he has had. And he finished off by winning the points championship. He won $25 million this past weekend by picking up the victory in the championship match. And what a season of winning. He had 3 birdies in a row on the back 9 to hold off Colin Morikawa. He finishes the year not just with a $25 million paycheck for winning the Players' Championship, finishes the year with $62 million in earnings.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal.
Good for him.
8 wins on the season, won the Masters, won the Players, won an Olympic gold medal, and he took the Tour of the title. And at the end of the tournament, the Players' Championship, they have this huge cup, which they award to the winner. I mean, God, it's got to be 4 feet high, and it's beautiful. It's got all the names engraved of all the Players' Championships. So he and his wife and their young baby, I don't know if the baby might be 2 months old, took the baby and put it right in the cup and took a team photo.
Awesome.
I mean, it's a really cool picture I saw
yeah.
on social media last night. So congratulations to Scottie Scheffler. He was really something. Auto racing, big stories here. Formula One. This meltdown is of historic dimensions. We're talking about what's happened to Team Red Bull. Max Verstappen, you know, he won 6 of the first 8 races, was running away with the points championship for the second year in a row. Verstappen has not won a race in his last 6 outings. They've been wrecked. They can't figure the car technology out. He's feuding with the pit crew. The owner is feuding with everybody on the racing side. They might not win this championship, and it is absolutely stunning. And Italian Grand Prix, same set of problems. It's like they've lost their ability to compete since mid-season. And they are really getting a tough run from Ferrari, from Mercedes, and from Team McLaren. I don't know if you like Formula One, ever watch Formula One. This is must-see TV. Find it on the TV next Sunday because it's amazing what's happened to Max Verstappen. Meanwhile, in NASCAR, Darlington 400 was the final race before their $5 million championship series begins. And Chase Briscoe, get this story, comes from back of the pack, pile of yellow flags over the last 49 laps. 19 laps, they have a green flag start. Chase Briscoe darts and dashes through 3 wide at Darlington, which is about as wide as this table. How they fit 3 cars going into a corner. Briscoe survives all that, and he wins. Who's Chase Briscoe? He drives for Stewart-Haas Racing. Who is Stewart-Haas Racing? The ones that are folding their shops Thanksgiving weekend and getting rid of all 5 of their NASCAR teams because they financially, Tony Stewart and Gene Haas can't operate it anymore financially. So Chase Briscoe wins the trophy, puts it on the car deck, stands there and looks into the TV camera last night at Darlington, South Carolina, and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is for all 323 of you who just got your termination notices from Stewart-Haas Racing. You deserve this." And he's going to donate a large part of his winning check as a driver to the 323 employees back in South Carolina, or maybe it's North Carolina, at the shop who've worked for these 5 NASCAR teams that are going out of business. It was really cool. The ballsy move to go 3 wide at Darlington into a corner where nobody survives, and then win the doggone thing and hold off Kurt Busch at the end, and then do what he did with the trophy and say, this is for you people. That was really kind of cool. John Riley, those are unique, different topics on the table.
Well, first of all, for the NASCAR thing at Darlington, there's 5 racers and they have 323 people that support them. I mean, that's mind-boggling, to think about all that goes on behind the scenes, because we just see the driver. We might see 10 or 12 people in the pit, but it's like a freaking operation. It's like an organization behind them.
Yeah, you got engineers and you got research people and people who do research and development. Obviously, you got all the people that work in the garage for the building of the cars and the setups. And they got all the employees, because there's contracts that you have. I mean, the whole business side of racing, aside of just Chase Briscoe winning at Darlington on Sunday, it is a massive business enterprise. And you could understand, Tony Stewart's been a great driver, and he's been a great ambassador for NASCAR and IndyCar. But you understand, when you don't win and you have 5 teams and none of them have been able to win, because it's so bloody competitive, that they just wave the white flag. And they sent the termination notices to all those employees this week, that Thanksgiving weekend will be their final day in the shop. And then for this kid to qualify, and then to qualify for the playoff, because you had to win to get into the playoffs,
right?
To qualify in the last qualifying race to get into the playoffs, and then say, I'm giving you a large chunk of my driver's check as a farewell present. That's cool.
It's a really cool story. The other one I'm going to comment about is Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah.
How much money did you say that he earned last year?
This past season, just completed yesterday, total $62 million.
Okay. I mean, to think about that in terms of, that's more, I think, than any NFL quarterback contract, right?
Close.
Or it's really close to it. But it just goes to show you how there's so much money in all of these other sports, not just in the NFL.
Why the hell are we sitting here doing this? We should be out getting ready for an event.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We need to put you behind one of those F1 cars.
I'll tell you what, he's a great golfer, a great spokesman for the sport. And it was kind of cool. He walked up, they gave him the trophy. He put his baby daughter, sat her right in the bowl. It was kind of a really neat picture.
Yeah, the other comment I want to make is, when I think of the U.S. Open, I always think about Jimmy Connors.
Sure.
When he made that run, I think he was in his 40s, and it went late into the night, and the fans are rowdy, and they're having a big New York time there, which I think is cool. The U.S. Open is very entertaining compared to the other kind of more stuffy tennis tournaments.
Yeah, Connors, Borg, McEnroe.
Oh, good times.
Oh, I mean, Boris Becker. I mean, if you just go back.
Agassi.
Exactly. You just go back and make a list of U.S. Open champions. I mean, going all the way back to Arthur Ashe, it's a really, really great event in New York. And because it's in the Big Apple, there's a lot of big personalities that are there courtside cheering it on. Wimbledon's unique. I've never been to Wimbledon. That's one of the things on my bucket list, but going to center court is pretty doggone cool in London. But I've been to Flushing Meadow. It's New York. It's raucous.
My wife went to Wimbledon once when she was a lot younger. She says it's shockingly small, the arena. I mean, it looks a lot bigger on TV than it is in real life.
Well, they play at center court, which is shockingly small, but they've got volumes of courts that are active all the time, because there's all these different events going on for the men's singles, women's singles, men's doubles, women's doubles, mixed doubles. It's, and then they have the junior Wimbledon tournament going on simultaneously. So it's active. Okay, those are topics on the table. We want you to be part of the conversation. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You've got projects, they've got materials. You need ideas, these people will help you too. DIXIELINE Lumber. John Riley created this. It's all on him if it works. Blame him if you don't like what I say, because he's the one that created this podcast. It's called Fans Forum. John, take it away.
Okay, let's get Greg involved. And Greg put this question in like 10 minutes before we hit the go live button. He says, "Hi, Lee. In your experience as a Chargers broadcaster, what was the toughest place to play on the road for the Chargers? My guess would be the Kingdome. Great show."
Kingdome was one of them. Greg may be from Seattle. I remember Bobby Ross told me that he had to tell his guys going to the Kingdome. And again, the Kingdome was massive. It was all cement. The noise just ricocheted off the walls. I mean, it was bedlam. And Bobby Ross told his players, more than anything else, we're playing the Seahawks, don't fumble the ball on the kickoff. Don't fumble a punt return. And we had a really good guy on returns, Ronnie Harmon, great veteran player.
Oh, yeah.
What does he do? He fumbles the opening kickoff in the first quarter. Seahawks get it. Seahawks score. And the volume level in that building went up. And you couldn't call audibles in there. It was so doggone hard to communicate. So I think that place is probably one of the loudest. Again, because of the dome and because of the cement venue. The new field in Seattle, pretty doggone noisy. It's an open-air stadium, but the way the seats are structured, fans are right on top of you, and the noise doesn't get out of there. And I think Arrowhead Stadium, historically, because that's in a bowl, and it's all around, just like Lambeau is a bowl, and they've built skyboxes on top of Lambeau, on top of the seats to go down at a very steep angle. I'd say Arrowhead and Lambeau are probably as tough outdoor ventures as there are anywhere, but it's noisy. And man, I mean, I was doing the radio broadcast as the voice of the Chargers, and even to a degree the Seahawks. You're wearing headsets and you still can't hear because the microphone is sucking all the noise in your head. So pretty good venues.
Well, I've been to the Kingdome, but to watch a baseball game, and that was really weird, you know, because they had the old school artificial turf that's like, an eighth of an inch thick, and Ken Griffey was playing back then, which was cool. You talked a lot about when you were the broadcaster of the Chargers. I remember you talked a lot about how Arrowhead was so tough, and it was an environment, a hostile environment, unlike any other place the Chargers would regularly play.
Yeah, and even if the greatest anger rivalry is the Raiders, silver and black, going back 1,000 years and all that, Arrowhead is so different, and maybe it's just because everybody wears red. There are no fans, there are no tickets to get to see the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. Nobody's selling their tickets on a second market to Charger fan. So I mean, it is hostile, and it is all red, and it's very steep. The seats, I mean, it's a bowl. And the seats are high and they go down and they are right on the field. So you're playing the Chiefs and you're playing the fans, and they are relentless. It's just rugged. So winning a game in there, first time we won in there was amazing. And then the Super Bowl season where we actually beat Schottenheimer, had a great team, and Bobby Ross beat them, and all that hostility. That was worth the price of admission to experience that.
Yeah, I mean, that's, and then the weather would always be horrible. It'd be cold as hell.
And, and I will say this: Pittsburgh, because of the terrible towel and that Steeler tradition, that building rocks. But it's not as crazy as Lambeau Field, where the fans are right on top of you, or Arrowhead Stadium.
It's kind of cool here because Brave Bull agrees with you. He goes, Arrowhead, Lambeau, got to be hard to play. So let's go on here to Robert, and he says, why don't we let the Padres, like Crony, listen to Tony Gwynn's advice to pull hitters in a slump? Try making 4 outs to the left side of the field. Work for the guys Tony told.
Well, I concur. These guys are streaky. It's a tough game. The baseball, John, is such a grind. Jurickson Profar is hitting 177 over the last month. Nobody's made much of it. He's hitting a $177. Yeah. He's just tired. He's fatigued. And maybe Mike Schilt. I know they're fighting to win the wild card, and they still have some outside hope of trying to chase down the Dodgers. But maybe Schilt needs to give these guys days off. Crony never takes a day off. Profar never takes a day off. Machado, when he was dinged, they would give him a day and let him be the DH. But I think you got to get off your legs. And I tend to think the mental fatigue is just unbelievable. And then you got some dude out there who's throwing 102 with wicked stuff that's, burning your shoelaces off because it moves so quick. So I think it's really, really hard for these guys to play 162 games. Cronenworth's had I think a rock solid, consistent season. Machado's had some dry spells. Bogart's had a really bad dry spell before he got hurt. Now Profar has just MIA'd it. And he's so fatigued because he's on the move all the time. So it's a tough grind. Maybe Schilt needed to rest guys more once a series, or, once or twice a homestand, or once or twice on the road.
Well, he needs to rest guys, but he also needs to win. Exactly. So he's in a tough spot. Yeah. I remember early in the season that Profar and Arise were both at the top of the leaderboard for batting average in the 330s, 340s. And now Profar is in the 280s. I mean, he's dropped like a rock, but you still would rather have Profar out there than, Tyler Wade.
But if you can give a guy a day off, like if you gave a guy a day off today, he got off the plane from Tampa, he doesn't play today, and tomorrow is an off day, that's 48 hours of respite. And I'll tell you, it does wonders for the players physically, and I think as well as emotionally. Arise, you can't get him out of the lineup because the guy wants to play all the time. He's the best bad ball hitter I've ever seen since I was a kid growing up, and they used to talk about Yogi Berra swinging at pitches he shouldn't have. Arise swings at pitches in all 3 San Diego area codes and gets hits.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. And Jackson Merrill also has a similar talent for knowing how to put the bat on the ball just the right way. And, here Robert's talking about guys going the other way. Cronenworth does that a lot too. And you've seen Manny going the other way. And then Merrill is outstanding at it. Merrill can make the adjustment to kind of doink a single to the left side, or he can hit for power to the right. I mean, it's amazing.
How about Merrill on let me see, how can I phrase this? In 3 consecutive innings in Tampa Bay, home run, face first dive of a catch to snuff out a rally, and a stolen base in 3 straight innings. The kid is doing it all.
He's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, and he's already passed Benito Santiago for the most RBI. I mean, I remember 1975, Fred Lynn was a rookie, and I think he won the MVP that year. And it's center fielder for the Red Sox. They went to the World Series. What a magical run. Maybe we might have the next Fred Lynn.
Well, we get the Rookie of the Year here for sure. Period, exclamation point. Don't argue with me. I'm a talk show host. Jackson Merrill has been spectacular. At age 21, new position, never played the doggone thing, but he's such a student of the game, and he's such a great athlete. So that's a cool story. Next question.
All right, let's go here to John. He goes, being reported that Tatis is being activated for tonight's game.
Could well be. Now, I saw a video of him in Arizona in a summer league game, and his gait running the bases, it sure didn't look right to me. But again, this is in the doctor's hands. They know him better. So I wonder if he'll start in right field, or maybe they'll DH him just to get his feet on the ground, get him going. So we knew that was coming. The next one is probably a decision on what they do with Darvish. Is Darvish ready after throwing 66 pitches in a summer league game against 18-year-olds in Arizona, or does he need a rehab start? That'll be intriguing to see how quickly they move on Darvish. That's the next one to happen.
There it is, right there. Tatis is in the lineup today, right here. You can just kind of show it to the camera there. And it's going to be, he's going to bat second. So it'll be Arise, Tatis, Solano, Machado, Bogarts, Merrill, Peralta, Higashioka, McCoy, and then Musgrove's pitching today.
Is Tatis DHing, or is he in right field?
He's in right field. Arise is DH.
So anyhow, I saw what I saw, but obviously they must think he's 100% or close to 100% ready. And they got themselves 30 days now before the end of the season, so they can spot him, and they'll play him, see how his body reacts to full baseball mode. Thanks, John. Next question.
Okay, here, let's go to Callan. He says, Johnny Gaudreau's death reminds me of Nick Adenhart. So tragic. Prayers up. Lee, any thoughts on the AHL mandating neck guards for players and refs, and will the NHL make it mandatory?
That has to go through the National Hockey League Players Association. It's currently a player's choice. I think after the tragic death of that former NHL player in England, when he got checked, fell, and a skate cut, severed an artery in his neck, and he's passed away. Junior hockey, the Western Hockey League, and I think the Quebec Hockey League, the top 2 junior leagues in Canada, mandated immediately after that tragedy in England that everybody wore throat guards. They look like turtleneck sweaters, but they have this heavy-duty plastic which a skate could not penetrate. The American Hockey League just announced last week everybody will wear these throat guards, which, hey, why wouldn't you? I mean, if you watch a player get dressed in a dressing room in the NHL, they wear all these pads down here and around their wrists so that if by some happenstance a guy gets a skate that comes across his glove or penetrates, it won't go to the artery here. So, and you look at the protectors that the goaltenders wear. I mean, at the massive shoulder protection and the chest protection. Of course, they're looking at 100-mile-an-hour slap shots. And obviously the advent of the face shield. Now, some guys don't wear it. Other guys do wear it down to here. Some guys wear a more fuller face shield to protect. And college hockey, everybody wears a mask, a cage, actually. So it's there for protection. Why you would not wear a throat guard? Why not? Well, it's not going to happen to me. Well, you don't know that. You can get somebody runs into a defenseman in front of them, it gets flipped upside down, and you're the other defenseman going for the puck. That guy's flying through the air, somersaulting. You could get clipped. I would wear it, and maybe more players will, but it will be mandated in the American Hockey League, and obviously it is in the juniors.
You see those old school video footage of NHL players with no helmet.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. There must have been some really horrible accidents on the ice.
There have been. I was in the minor leagues when I was in the Eastern Hockey League in Mohawk Valley. We played the Long Island Ducks, or maybe it was the New Haven Blades. One of their defensemen fell behind our net, and one of our guys fell over him and sliced the back of his neck. And the blood was pouring out. Now, that was a fatty area. They got him to the hospital. They stitched him up. They saved him. He actually came back and played probably a week later. It looked bad because of the location, but it wasn't here where the arteries are. Mm-hmm. So, there've been some along the way. And, of course, at one point, we really had the Broad Street Bully era and the big boy bad Bruin era where fighting was part of it. And there were head injuries and things of that nature. Some really bad stuff happened. But, yeah, you can get hurt. You can get hurt by high stick, an accidental high stick. You can get hurt by skate cut, too, because guys are flying and guys get hit. And their bodies go different angles, and you just might be a victim there. And a guy comes by, and you get hit with a skate as he's going by. So the league mandates it, and the only reason it's not in the NHL right now is just because it has to go through the union. I don't know why it's been discussed, but it has not been proposed and voted on.
He also brings up the point here, Johnny Gaudreau and Nick Adenhart. And it is an emotional loss of life of a healthy young man, a young woman in a season. I think of Len Bias. I mean,
sure.
What can you think of who was maybe the one that affected you the most emotionally?
Well, first of all, the fans know Nick Adenhart was a high draft pick of the Angels, a bright young pitcher, got killed by a drunk driver a night after a game, going home, got broadsided, died instantly. And, of course, what happened to Johnny Gaudreau of the Columbus Blue Jackets this past week. The tragedy that I covered in person, because I was friends with him, was terrible. It was Thurman Munson, but that was an accident. He was a private pilot on an off day with the Yankees. He'd fly home from New York to Akron, Canton, Ohio, and on his off day he would fly. And then he was doing practice takeoffs and landings in I don't know if it was a Piper Cub or a small Learjet that he owned. And he missed the runway, hit a fence. He broke his neck, couldn't get him out. Thing caught on fire. He died in the cockpit. And I had to cover that story, and I had to cover the funeral. It was unbelievably grasping of the heart because the Yankees came en masse. And I sat in a corner of the church in North Canton at the funeral service, and there was Billy Martin and Reggie Jackson weeping. I mean, uncontrollably. And Munson, he was captain. Munson was proud and loud, and he would tell you what he thought. He didn't care if you were Reggie Jackson or Billy Martin. He would tell you what he thought, and he was a great leader. And it was just a sad happenstance of he was practicing takeoffs and goes or whatever they call it, and he missed the runway and went right through a fence, and the plane went nose first in, and he got trapped. He broke his neck. They couldn't get him out of the thing, and it caught on fire.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just as a young reporter broadcaster to experience that with somebody you knew, because I'd have Munson on my talk show. He'd come in the studio, sit and take phone calls from the fans when I was working in Akron. Cool guy, self-made individual, and so that was a really tough story.
I just remember when that all went down, that there was an outpouring of sadness from the players and the fans, but especially the players, because they said, yeah, he's our captain. He's our leader. He is the guy, and this is when I was just starting to follow baseball in the mid-'70s is when that happened, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, what a tragedy.
Here's a really interesting sidebar. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. The Paralympics are going on in Paris right now.
Yeah.
Here's a really cool story. I want to say about 5 years ago, in the Western Hockey League, which is a junior league out in Western Canada in the prairies, there was a team at the end of the season on a road trip. I think it was going right into the playoffs, called the Humboldt Broncos. It was in the Western Canadian Junior Hockey League. And their bus, with all their players and all their coaches, got broadsided at an intersection by a big tractor trailer truck out in the prairies. It tore the bus apart. I want to say 6 or 8 of the players died instantly. Coach died. PR staff on the bus died. The whole bus, the top of the bus was ripped apart, and it rolled over, and the players got ejected. Anyhow, I think there were 15 other players who were seriously injured. One was totally crippled, lost all from his legs down. That kid did all the rehab. He kind of became the spokesman for the survivors of the Humboldt Broncos bus tragedy, raised a lot of money. That kid became a star on the Canadian Paralympic team, and he's in Paris competing as a rower.
Right on.
Single, I don't know what you call it. Single skull.
Yeah.
I saw a video of him yesterday. I said, holy cow, talk about turning a piece of your life and that tragedy into something special. I mean, they raised so much money. NHL players poured a lot of money into this fund to take care of the families of the kids who lost their lives. And this athlete, this Canadian hockey player, who I think was 18 at the time, got crippled. He became the vocal leader, where they raised I want to say they raised like $17 million, because Canada's outpouring was phenomenal, and the NHL did a lot. And this kid goes through the therapy and the rehab, and he's lost his lower limbs, and he's an Olympic rower on a single person skull. It was really cool to see the video yesterday. His family was there. That was neat. So anyhow, we're talking about the Johnny hockey tragedy and how others have gone through those experiences.
What a story.
Yeah. But if you Google Humboldt Broncos tragedy and read the story, you just can't believe it. And they have a memorial at the intersection of this rural highway out in Saskatchewan, where they built monuments to all the players who died. And they have a special service in Saskatchewan for those players every year. It's kind of cool.
Wow.
Next question.
Next question. All right, let's go here. Quick one. Shout out from Michael. He says, hey, San Diego State, good win.
Hey, first place, Southland Conference. If it doesn't work out in the Mountain West. No, I'm only kidding. Great strides. I told you so, that they would run so many wide receivers out there that they would wear out Texas Commerce, and they did. And they won. Kid quarterback played well. Marcus Cooper is a top group of 5 running back. That's a special player. Obviously, they got strength in numbers at wide receiver. Defense plays with great speed, but that was against a team that was 1-9. Mountain West is going to be much tougher. Obviously, the next 2 weekends against the Oregon State Beavers and the Cal Golden Bears is going to be a big challenge. But if they keep their players healthy, they're going to cause some problems in this group of 5 conference, because Sean Lewis did the exact same thing at Kent State. He brought in truckloads of wide receivers who could run like hell, and defenses in the Mid-American Conference didn't have the strength of numbers. He ran 9 receivers out there. They don't have 9 defensive backs in the opposing defense to be able to hold up to this. So it's going to be fun to watch. I hope the community, I hope disenfranchised Charger fan will give San Diego State an opportunity. Go see a game and tell me what you think about the atmosphere of Snapdragon. Hell, this guy sitting in the 50-yard line seat in the upper deck with the rich and famous, he had a good time.
It's a great stadium.
Yeah,
it really
cool.
is.
And it gets noisy. Can you imagine if they had 35,000 in there?
Oh, it'd be rocking. It would be absolutely be rocking. And the student section was there, and we had a great time. Again, I just wish there were more people there. The bottom bowl was pretty full. I was in the top, but we enjoyed it. But imagine you get Sean Lewis, a new innovative mind, to come here to San Diego State, trying these new things, 9 receivers, running the defense ragged. Maybe they might pull off a sneaky upset with Oregon State or with Cal. I mean, what do you think?
I don't know. That's big boy football.
Yeah.
You know, that's Oregon State that ran for 379 yards last weekend. And what do you think? What do you think the game plan is Saturday night? Run the ball. Run the ball. We are going to run the ball.
Mhm.
And I just know that San Diego State physically in their defensive front can hold up to that.
Now, are the Cal and Oregon State games here at home?
Oregon State here, then you go to Berkeley.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, the Berkeley game, I think there's a better chance there. But, I mean, they faced Oregon State a few years ago, and they were competitive, I remember, for about half the game.
And then you make mistakes and the game gets away from you.
Exactly.
So that's where we are. Next question.
Okay, let's go here to Brave Bull. And he says, give Steve Lavin a couple of years, and he'll get USD to the NIT.
Well, the most unique thing, when Lavin got there, I said, this is going to be fun. Again, the conference has got Gonzaga in it. The conference has got San Francisco, which is a really good program. It's got St. Mary's and Randy Bennett, which is a great program. So it's a tough conference. Lavin got there, and all these Division I kids came and transferred in, played their final year, and they were pretty decent. But what happened, then the NIL came in, and they don't have a lot of money in the NIL. And then he started to lose what good players he had who got cherry-picked out of there. So he was really down. He almost had an all-freshman team last year, and he couldn't get kids to come in because they didn't have NIL money, a lot of NIL money to give. So he's in a tough place. USD has not got the resources that the Zags have. It does not have what St. Mary's has got. Now, both Gonzaga and St. Mary's built their reps by recruiting a ton internationally. And that led to success, which has led to even greater success. So Lavin's a good man. He knows a lot of people. If they have a new athletic director, the aftermath of the hazing mess, if they can fundraise, if they can build an NIL, then maybe they're going to be able to get some players based on Lavin's contacts. But right now that's not happening because all these other schools, the Washington States, et cetera, they're coming in, they're offering kids a lot more money than a USD could. And USD can't offer what Gonzaga or St. Mary's or even San Francisco offers.
Yeah, he's had a disadvantage there, but, you know, he is a big get for USD to be the coach there.
Good resume,
good guy. He was a good broadcaster doing college basketball coverage in the studio. I mean, I've always liked the guy. I'm surprised he's not the coach at USF, given that his roots are there. But it seems like he wants to be part of the West Coast Conference with all these Jesuit schools.
Yeah, I just feel bad for him because he's in the shadows, and at this point, nobody really pays attention. You know, they had hired Bill Greer from Gonzaga years ago, and that was with great accolades. And he came in and he did well early, and they actually got to the NCAA tournament. But then there was the point shaving scandal. And then all of a sudden he just couldn't recruit, and it just kind of cascaded down on him, and then he was out, and it just hasn't been the same program since.
Didn't they beat UConn in the first round?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was unbelievable.
Yeah. And that's a long time ago, though.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Okay. We move on. Fans Forum. What's next?
Okay. Let's go here to a little social media commentary, and let's go down here. Oh, some comments about the coach. And this is from Manga. He says, this is such a refreshing solution given the demise of Mighty 690 and later 1090. So happy to see you all. Maybe a mini reunion with Hartman and Romy one day. Chet is smiling down on you guys. Bless up.
Yeah, I think about Chet all the time. And actually, I was talking to people over the weekend. I did not realize, Steve Hartman has moved. He was here. He left. He went back to LA. He's doing some part-time TV like I'm doing. I'm on KUSI every Saturday morning. Get your ass out of bed at 6:30. What I do on TV is pretty decent.
It is.
Anyhow, Steve just moved to the Valley of the Sun, so he's in Arizona right now. Romy is obviously based out of Los Angeles. Some of the other guys are around. Yeah, we'll talk about. I don't know how easy it is to pull off a reunion on Zoom with a bunch of guys, but hey, what I need from everybody here who's part of this live stream, I need you to network with your friends. And I know some of you have friends. You're not all part of the Raider Nation where all you have is enemies. Some of you have friends. I want you to network and tell everybody what we're doing. Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m. Hacksaw's website, I write on it every day. Hell, you might even get a shot of tequila with the Insiders Group or John Licks to take us out drinking one night. Anybody who can sit on a 50-yard line, you can afford to buy some shots of tequila for all of our followers.
You're really rubbing that line in, I think. I'll tell you what, there was such an outpouring of love when the coach John Quintero was here to see the two of you together, brought all the warm vibes and the good feelings from 1090, 690. But it was also interesting that the dynamic of the two of you talking sports, I mean, it was real deal sports conversation.
Sports talk radio the way it should be done.
Yeah, exactly. We weren't like ranking our top 5 breakfast cereals or some other kind of cranky BS like that. It was a really good content. So I'm hoping that we can get the coach back in here. If not in studio, bring him up in a window here and he can, could join us from his estate there on the coast.
Okay. You need to network with your friends. Tell everybody what we're doing. Help us market Hacksaw's Headlines on the podcast, Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Next one.
Okay, here's another one about the Aztecs, and this is from Dave Meyer. He says, been a while since I've been excited about San Diego State football, but this season I am ready for a new chapter.
Well, it's different. There's no doubt about it. And somebody made a point to me in the press box on Saturday night. Lee, this community grew up on Eric Coryell. This community grew up on Sid Gilman. This community grew up on throwing the football, whether that was the Aztecs when they were Division II, what the Chargers were in the early days of the AFL, what they became when Dan Fouts was here. Throw the damn football. And I'm not going to be negative towards Brady Hoke nor Rocky Long. They were cut from a different cloth, and their thing was run the football, and we're going to play really great, tough as cement defense and win. And they won, and they won. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't sexy. It kind of worked against them because it was in the Mountain West Conference, not what people liked, which was Pac-12 football. So it was a different type of football. But this guy's got a good resume. Now we'll see. We'll see how this does when they start playing the people in the Mountain West. Because those guys, the Boises and the Fresno, they do play big boy defense too. That's going to be fun to watch those matchups as we get through this non-conference part of the schedule and go into the start of the conference season. But give Sean Lewis a chance because the guy's got a resume. I mean, what he did at Kent, what he did at Bowling Green, what he did at Syracuse, what he did the first half of the season with Coach Prime at Colorado, that was really impressive X's and O's stuff.
Yeah, there's potential here if they can, hit the right kind of talent, the right kind of player. I mean, it's like back in the day when you were broadcasting during the Marshall Faulk era, they filled up Qualcomm Stadium. But they can do that all again. It'll happen.
That's the most amazing thing to me. They averaged 48 to 52,000 during the Faulk era, the 3 great years that were there with Al Luganville. And they chucked that ball all over the field. And they had guys that wound up in the NFL, the Darnay Scotts of the world and the Oz Hakeems of the world, and obviously a Hall of Famer like Marshall Faulk. And I thought they had arrived as a football program, and those guys left, and then it faltered. And then they fired Luganville, and they went a different direction, and it was a real struggle. They had good guys as coaches. They just could not turn the corner and get it over the top. And they went from Luganville to Ted Tollner, great gentleman, smart guy, to Tom Kraft. I thought was X and O's brilliant, but he just academically, he couldn't hold on to the players that he had. He had real trouble. That's when APR kind of came into effect. And then they made a mistake. They hired Chuck Long, who was living off his name as an Iowa quarterback and a Heisman guy. And it was an utter disaster. And then that brought us brought us Brady. And he laid a foundation, and he jumped ship. Rocky came in, did a hell of a job. Brady came back, did a good job, but then it got away from him, and then the landscape changed again. Just like Kraft got burned by the APR rules as to who you could bring in and what they had to do academically, Brady got burned by the NIL and the transfer portal, and he was old school and just couldn't accept it, that the landscape had changed. And that's why so many veteran coaches have left college football in the last 24 months or so. So, Sean Lewis, it's going to be fun.
Imagine during that last part of the Brady Hoke era, I think it was Hoke, not Rocky Long. But remember, COVID hit and they didn't have a stadium. They were playing in Carson. Imagine if none of that happened. They could still play at Qualcomm. There was no pandemic. That team was successful. And there was a lot of momentum building. And it just seemed like they got the rug pulled out from underneath them.
They lost all those home games. They played on the road for 2 years.
Yeah.
Nobody went to those games. No. I'm not driving to Carson.
Yeah, no way.
That's a road trip. So that was a big issue. And then he had quarterback problems, and they couldn't keep quarterbacks, and the ones they got didn't work out. Then they had injury factors, and then the whole thing just kind of denigrated. And I'm not going to say anything against Brady Hook. I think he was a hell of a guy. I mean, I'd sign up and go play for him because I believe in his philosophies. I thought he was a good teacher, but they couldn't handle quarterbacks. And because you don't have a quarterback and it's a quarterback's game this day, it's just a different era. So he had a good run, and Rocky had a great run. They did it differently. This guy has had success the last places he's been. So let's give him a window and let's see what Sean Lewis looks like.
And maybe they have a quarterback in Danny O'Neill.
Yeah, it kind of looks that way.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Okay.
A couple more.
Okay, let's talk a little Dodgers baseball with Tom, talking about Ohtani. He said he did this for 6 years and pitched as good in Anaheim, and no one knows that because of a putrid owner.
Well, I think baseball people appreciate the greatness of Ohtani, and we've talked extensively. People don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I mean, I'm in those clubhouses. I know the prep, the video prep, the physical prep, just to be a DH every day, and then the study. And then Ohtani was doing all that. And then, by the way, throwing sessions in between starts and bullpen days, and the video prep about his next start on Sunday and who he's going to pitch against. I don't understand how he handled the workload. There's not enough hours in the day to do all that. And by the way, physically be able to execute everything he did. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime type of player. I don't think we'll ever see this again.
Yeah, I think to your point, it's not just the physical skills, but it's the mental skills. I mean, he's in a new country, new culture, new language, and nothing phases him.
No.
I mean, it's just what a guy. And yeah, he was buried in Anaheim, but I'm glad that the whole nation's seeing him now with the Dodgers.
Concur with you. I mean, he's a very, very unique talent.
Can we squeeze a Padre one in here?
Do it.
Okay, let's go to Versa. It says here, the Padres sit in third in the National League West, but I see them better off than any of the three. Once Yu comes back along with Tatis, that's like acquiring two All-Stars. I see the Twins and the Padres in the World Series.
Minnesota's kind of an underrated team. They've had a lot of injuries to their everyday players. Byron Buxton's a really good player. Can't stay on the field. Yeah, I think he's been on the DL 3 times this season. I don't know if Minnesota's got enough starting pitching from pitchers 2, 3, 4. That's going to be a big issue there. You know, and by the way, over in the American League, you do have the Yankees and all their bats. And you do have that collection of draft picks that have all come up together and are playing really well in Baltimore. So and Milwaukee's had an unbelievable season with all the injuries they've had and no Christian Yelich. And, you know, that manager might be the manager of the year over there. So we pay attention to what Milwaukee's become. So there's a lot of good teams out there. I just don't know that the Twins have enough players to be able to do it. I think the Padres are really close, but we don't know yet about Darvish. And we don't know Musgrove, even though he's had 3 good starts, the last one was not good. So we got to see if Musgrove is going to be able to hold up for what the month of September brings. And I'm privately worried about the 155 innings that Michael King has already piled up. And Cease looks worn out to me. So we're going to get Tatis back tonight, and we'll find out how he holds up to the final month of the season. But there's no doubt the Padres are doggone good. I think the most important thing is playing at home. If even though they have the second best record on the road, if the Padres can get home field advantage for the wild card rounds, that's hugely important. And then if they get to the National League Championship Series, if Philadelphia's out there, Dodgers are out there, and those are the 2 teams I think you got to pay attention to. But let's get to through this final month of the season, and then we'll be talking October baseball, which is what the goal was all along.
Well, you know, the Padres are kind of the hot choice, the trendy choice to be the team that could go deeper than you expect any team to go because of their bullpen has been rebuilt and their starting pitching. So, I mean, obviously we're fans. We'd love to see that happen. But just imagine it for a moment if Versa here was right and we got a Twins-Padres World Series. The media would go, oh, this is awful. There's no Yankees. There's no Dodgers. And we'd have to hear all that crap.
Yeah, but do you think either the Padres or the Twins could get through the roadblock that is just ahead? That roadblock could be Dodger Stadium and everything LA's got. You know, Ohtani, Mookie, and Freeman, that's pretty doggone good. Or that blockade might be Bryce Harper and the boys in Philly, and they do play like hell at home. And then obviously if you ever got to the World Series, that is, even though you don't like them, that is Soto, and that is the Judge, and that is Stanton. And it's a pretty good everyday Yankee lineup.
If there was a World Series in Minnesota, they have an outdoor stadium now, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in late October, I mean, that could be pretty crazy.
You own hoodies and turtlenecks.
That's not baseball weather, though.
Wouldn't be the first time ever.
Yeah.
Come on, get out of the house. All right. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed what we're trying to bring you. We're here Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m. By the way, this Thursday, NFL preview. We're going to go division by division. NFL season starts Thursday night. There's a Friday night game on the schedule. Everybody else plays on Sunday. And then Monday, Thursday, circle it. NFL preview here as part of this podcast. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. Fix it, build it, guarantee you will enjoy it with DIXIELINE Lumber. John, take a deep breath. Get your notebook out because we're going to argue about the divisional races in the NFL come Thursday.
Division by division. They got a rugged schedule. I can't wait for all the shtick from Hacksaw for that one. That's going to be good.
Thanks for being with us. Thank you for joining us on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.